Did you know that this rare metal can glow in the dark? Named after the Latin word radius, meaning ray, as well as the rays that are emitted from it when it glows, is the element radium. With an atomic number of 88 and atomic weight of about 226, radium is an extremely rare element on Earth. It has an abundance of about 1 part per trillion in the Earth's crust, and since it is produced as a byproduct of uranium mining or the decay of the uranium atom, it takes about 7 tons of uranium ore to produce just a single gram of radium. Not only is it rare but long-lasting. The half-life of radium is approximately 1,600 years, which compared to human life is about 20 average human lifetimes. When first discovered, radium had many uses. Around the 1910s, it was a factor in paints used on clocks, watches, and instrument dials so that they would glow in the dark. Since it was believed to provide health benefits, it was also utilized in medicine, especially for the treatment of cancer, where tumors were subjected to the gamma radiation of its daughter isotopes. In addition to household products like toothpaste, lipstick, tonics, and chocolate. It was discovered in 1898 by Marie Curie with the help of her husband Pierre Curie, while they conducted experiments with the mineral pitchblende using a new method of chemical analysis. Different approaches were used to separate the different elements in the pitchblende, like using acid to see which elements would dissolve, as well as using the Curie electrometer to identify the most radioactive fractions. They noticed that the material was more radioactive than the separated uranium it once contained, pointing towards radium. 12 years later, in 1910, Marie finally isolated metallic radium. However, the discovery of radium and its part in the lives of people of the early 19th century did not come without sacrifices. All this work with radioactive materials caused her to become ill. Her exposure to radiation contributed to her condition, aplastic pernicious anemia, ultimately being the cause of her death in 1934. Another big sacrifice made during the popularity of radium was the health of the dial painters. These were female factory workers who would use the self-luminous paint on watch dials in the early 1920s. After being told that the radium in the paint was harmless, the dial painters would lick their brushes to achieve a fine point for detailed painting. This continued exposure and ingestion of deadly amounts of radium led to an increase of deaths and disease among the female workers. They often began with dental pain, loose teeth, and ulcers, which progressed to development of anemia, bone fractures, and decay and necrosis of the jaw, a condition now known as radium jaw. In 1924, the first dial painter died, and before her death, her jaw fell away from her skull. In 1924, 50 of the female factory workers who had worked at the plant were ill, and a dozen had died. X-rays of the women who were ill showed that their insides were glowing and would continue to glow throughout their lives. This increase of death and disease among the workers sparked a legal case, in which plant workers sued their company, U.S. Radium. This group became known as the Radium Girls. Although they had provided provable suffering, doctors tried to devalue their conditions with diagnoses of syphilis. After years of searching for willing lawyers and compiling evidence, in the spring of 1938, the IIC ruled in favor of the women with a settlement of $10,000 for each of the Radium Girls. Despite its importance to society through what was thought to be health-strengthening product in its early years of discovery, radium does not have any current major industrial uses due to the danger of its radioactivity. Although the harm of radium was known and was still cruelly used in products, causing damage to the lives of many through its strong and brutal radioactive quality, the discovery and isolation of radium is still sometimes described as the greatest event in chemistry since the discovery of oxygen. This is because, for the first time in history, it could be shown that an element could be transmuted into another element. The discovery revolutionized chemistry and signified a new era.